Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We're about to begin. Thank you for coming to this important session on the forced displacement of people around the world. My name is Samer Saliba, and I'm the head of practice at the Mayor's Migration Council, a mayor-led coalition that accelerates ambitious global action on migration and displacement. For the first time in our world's history, there are over 100 million people displaced from their homes, the majority of them living in towns and cities, not in camps. Not only is the number of people displaced increasing, but so too are the causes for displacement. Conflict, climate crises, and human rights abuses make displacement more complex than ever before, and the need to protect not only the lives, but the independence and dignity of people affected by displacement is increasingly paramount. The Mayor's Migration Council's own solution to tackling the consequences of displacement is the Global Cities Fund for Migrants and Refugees, a 2021 Paris Peace Forum scale-up project which directs international funding directly to mayors and their city governments to implement inclusive projects of their own design. But today, we have the pleasure of hearing of other solutions from the diverse perspective of our distinguished speakers, including Hanna Edouard, who is a journalist, activist, and founder and president of the Iraqi Women Network, which amplifies the power of Iraq's women and civil society organizations to influence the future of their country and of their governments. Joining us virtually, we have Viktor Stepinyuk, who is a representative of the Lviv Oblast in western Ukraine. Next to me, we have Carlo Monticelli, the governor of the Council of the European Development Bank and a former senior official at the Italian Ministry of Economy and Finance. And to his right, we have Panagiotis Pikramenos, the Deputy Prime Minister of Greece, where he has also served both as a distinguished judge and the former Prime Minister. During this session, we will hear new ideas from all of our speakers before turning to a more open discussion where I encourage our speakers to reflect on each other's remarks before we close the session in 45 minutes' time. My only ask to our panelists is that the people affected by displacement do not get conflated with the challenges of displacement and its root causes. Governor Monticelli, I'd like to please start with you. The Council of Europe Development Bank was founded on protecting the rights of refugees and finding solutions to displacement during the Second World War, almost more than 60 years ago. Today, how can the bank, as a multilateral development bank, address the consequences of forced displacement, in your mind?
Good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here in this forum, which is really provides a tremendous opportunity to exchange ideas, to find solution, and very happy to share this panel with you and my fellow panelists. The first thing that I want to say is that it is absolutely important for our understanding of the issue before us to stop with the misnomer migration or displacement crisis. This is not a crisis. It's a phenomenon that is here to stay for a long time, and it has important root causes that have to be addressed. But I want, rather than go into this more general issue, just to focus on what my institution does. As you recall, the institution was established just to take care of displaced people. We have focused to our social mission throughout our history, and our original mandate is as relevant as it has always been, if possibly more. Now, what we have found throughout our experience, and is something that is important, I believe, for all stakeholders to bear in mind when they collaborate, are two aspects. The first one is that it is absolutely important to have a joint action of support of displaced people and the hosting communities. This is crucial both to the welfare of people and to ensure that the human solidarity is supported by avoiding the crowding of essential social services. The second important aspect is that we have different solutions at different stages of the process. And it is important to collaborate again among different stakeholders at each of the three stages. And the bank, the Council of Europe Development Bank, just focuses on the three stages to make sure that the approach are consistent. The first stage is the one immediate, to provide emergency assistance. Food, shelter, this has to be done effectively, targeting the immediate support. The second stage is more of a medium-term situation where there is the necessity to invest in the basic infrastructures just to make the displaced people have a decent life, which includes then for children to continue in their education, to have health services, to have social housing. And let me quote, for example, what the SEB has done during the Ukrainian crisis. We provided important support to the neighboring country to accommodate this huge influx. Poland, the Czech Republic, but also countries that received, that were not bordering, but received a lot of refugees because you had Ukrainians already there. The third phase is the one of a longer-term integration, because many, if not most, of the displaced people really crave to go back to where they have their roots, to their home. They are willing to settle for good if they must do it. And if this is the case, it is absolutely important to help the integration, providing on a larger scale the services that I was referring to, and there having a particular focus on education and training for successful participation in the labor market.
Excellent. Thank you, Governor. I really appreciate the focus on what one might term development responses. One typically associates humanitarian or displacement assistance with humanitarian assistance, but you're really highlighting not just humanitarian assistance, but development assistance, especially as it ties to countries welcoming Ukrainians displaced from their home. I'd actually like to turn, I don't know if we still have Victor online, I'd like to turn to Mr. Stepenyuk from a sub-government within Ukraine, from the Lviv region, where within Ukraine or outside of Ukraine, there are over 4 million displaced outside of the country, nearly 7 million internally displaced within the country, and as Governor, as you mentioned, millions more trying to make their way back home. Within Lviv, it is in its regional location, it is both at the center of these movements and itself suffering, of course, from the impacts of war. Mr. Stepenyuk, I wonder if I could ask you, how has the international community supported you thus far? And in your opinion, what more is needed to help your state and other subnational and local governments within Ukraine help people affected by displacement to really regain control of their lives?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to take a part in such honorable meeting. Uh, Lviv region is one of regions of Ukraine there, which have the biggest amount of IDPs. Uh, in total, during this almost 9 months in 2022, we have already more than 250,000 IDPs from east and north and south parts of Ukraine. During the first days of war, we had big waves of IDPs here in Lviv region because we are near Poland and near border of our country. That's why I just want to thank for all our neighbors and all other countries from European Union that supported us during these months and hosted our people in your countries. It was really supportive, and we understand that without this support we had much more big problems here. When we are talking about some future steps, some next steps, it's very important to remember about winter, and probably we will have some difficulties with during winter months. It all depends about situation in general during this war. But if our enemies will still fighting our electricity capacities and something like that, we will have to host more IDPs here in Lviv region. That's why it's really important for us to make them good variants of accommodation. In Lviv region, we repaired a lot of dormitories and other places of social infrastructure just to make an opportunity for IDPs, for people that are running from rockets and bombs, just to make them normal conditions to middle term accommodate. We had during this summer, and I am also thankful for our French partners, such as organization European Prehistoc and our new colleagues, if I can say like that, but we had a good cooperation with Occitania region, with Montpellier city, with Tomblain and Les Pep. I am talking about summer vacations for our kids from families that are with IDP status. It was really supportive during this summer, and we are still interested to keep this friendship and to make more projects in future. Just in general, I want one more time to say that we are really appreciate all support from all countries of free world, and I believe that with your support we will win this war. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stepenyuk. And I'd really like to call out Europrishtok, which you mentioned, which is a Paris Peace Forum project this year, where the Lviv region is working actually with subnational and city governments here in France, as you said, to provide simply summer vacations for Ukrainian kids who are internally displaced within their country and wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity. So I'd like to acknowledge the Paris Peace Forum for acknowledging that project as well. Going from a country of a source country, if I could put it that way, to a country that has historically played a hosting role in Greece. Deputy Prime Minister, je vais poser ma question en anglais, mais comme vous voulez, comme vous voulez.
I'll ask my question in English, as you want, French or English.
D'accord. But Deputy Prime Minister, displacement is not new to Greece. I had the privilege myself of actually seeing what Athens and Mytilene and Lesbos, how Greeks were really playing the welcoming role at the community level within Greece in 2015, when the country was at the forefront of Europe receiving 1.3 million refugees and asylum seekers from conflicts stemming from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, just for example. From your perspective, how can national governments, not just within Europe, but around the world, learn from Greece's experience and collaborate with other governments and non-government actors, as well as multilateral actors, to address the root causes of displacement, while also preparing for, as we discussed in the back room, and preventing displacement from reaching crisis levels in the first place?
It's quite a difficult question. Preventing displacement, displacement has many causes. One of the causes can be the war, which is the usual one. Another cause can be that there are no economic solutions, and all of these causes create displacements. I mean, if people are poor, during the whole history, they try to find their way in other countries, and that was also very common in Greece in the 50s, when many Greeks from the islands took the boat to go to the States to find, and you see that in the States in our time with the Mexicans. So Greece has suffered because, as you mentioned, in 2015, 2016, suffered with unprecedented flows of immigrants. And Greece was not prepared at the time to face such big flows. And there were problems, as you mentioned before, between the communities and the central state. Although Greeks have, through their history, a great tradition of hospitality. And I don't know if you've seen the pictures. One picture has remained. It's an emblematic picture of three nannies around 80s or 80s and some having babies of immigrants and giving them milk and all this. This is the famous Greek tradition. During the years, things have changed, and now we are much more prepared to have to solve their problems, but we have learned some lessons from this crisis. I would say two kinds of lessons. First one is to protect our frontiers in the sea, in the land. You know what happened with the river in Evros, where we avoided an invasion by people who were pushed by the neighbor country to enter Greece. So I said to protect our frontiers. Second is to avoid, and that's not an easy thing to do, the instrumentalization of the problem by other countries. In the meantime, Greece has done many things. We have built camps, many camps. And as you said, in the island of Lesbos, for instance, there were no commodities, there were no comfortable places. Now they are. They exist in Chios, in Lesbos, and many other islands. We have created policies to deal with the immigrants, and especially with the minor ones and the unprotected ones. We have created policies for the effective integration in the Greek society. But I will tell you, to finish, that there are two words that if they don't exist, you cannot face the problem. And these words are cooperation, that you must have, and also you must have sharing of the problem with the other countries. You cannot face such huge problem alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. I want to pick up on the second lesson that you mentioned, which is to avoid the instrumentalization of people by other countries. It's something that unfortunately is sadly happening in the country where I'm based, in the United States. And I think it's something that is really the cause or the lack of a human face of displacement. We often talk about displacement in grand terms, 100 million people around the world displaced, potentially billions of people being displaced due to climate change. But behind these numbers are actual people and faces. And I have the pleasure now of turning to Ms. Edouard, the president of the Iraqi Network, Iraqi Women Network, excuse me, whose organization, and you yourself, Ms. Edouard, have made tremendous progress in standing up for the rights of Iraqi and Arab women by ensuring that they are represented in Iraqi institutions, sometimes at your own personal risk. By most estimates, the majority of the 100 million people around the world are women and their dependent children, including the over 1 million internally displaced people within Iraq. With such staggering numbers, and I really have not heard a good answer to this, so I'm at the edge of my seat on your ideas to address this. How do we effectively put a human face to displacement, put people at the center, and ensure that those most marginalized not only have protection and the emergency response, as the governor was talking about, but also an active and equal role in how we, and I'm including them in the we, collectively respond to displacement?
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening for all attendants. And really, I feel happy to be in Paris and attend and to participate in the Peace Forum in Paris. This is an opportunity for us to speak about our situation as part of the global situation of the displacement, which is really, how we say it, it is one of the challenge for achieving stability and especially justice, and to speak about reconciliation as well as transitional justice and peace. This is one of the questions in Iraq. It is what we feel we have suffered for some years ago. And all of you remember Daesh, the terrorist group, when has invaded Iraq since 2014, and the consequences of millions, 5 million of IDPs being scattered all over the country. And this is one, now we are after when the government defeated Daesh at the end of 2017, These questions of displaced people remains is, questions and remains to have solution for these people, where most of these people now, of course, I can speak about some of them, they have returned to their places. But till now, we have more than 1,200,000 people are displaced. And these people, they have suffered from, how we say it, multi-displacement in their, living conditions in Iraq during this time. As we have, and they are living in a very hardship situation, economically, socially, and of course, security situation things. They suffer a lot. And taking into consideration, most of these people are women and children. And this is a human being where we have to face a civil society movement in Iraq. Is not only giving aid, humanitarian aid, but they need to settle. They need their, recognizing their decent life, dignity, their decent life, and they are part of human rights issues that we have really to tackle it and to make this one of the priority. If we speak about, stability in Iraq, if we speak about peace in Iraq, we speak about development in Iraq, that recognize their suffering. It is very important issues. When you can see that many of them, they have no IDs still now. They don't have legal papers. They don't have, freedom access for their living conditions. They don't have education, the children. They don't have the, health services. This is the health services, especially that many of them, they felt trauma, psychological trauma. And I will mention here the questions of Yazidi. Yazidis women, whom they were victims of, genocide, mass genocide, crimes and war crimes, which is recognized by the international community. These strata, it's a big strata under trauma. How we can help in this situation when we don't have enough health services? We don't have, to heal from their suffering and to find for them secure places. We have really made an advocacy campaign for the legislation, what they call it, the legislation for the Yazidi women and the women survivors from rape and sexual violence. And this was enacted by Parliament in 2021. But till now, this is not, making the law is not making enough space for women to settle, especially the survivors of the sexual violence. I will let you know that's remedy, remedy for them. It is recognized in the law, but it is not the moral remedy. These people, they need a lot of moral remedy for them. And it is part of, health centers, psychological, treatment, and they need also rehabilitation program. And this is still not enough, is still in a very slow motion, is going to be implemented by the government. We need also that to recognize for them the empowerment, economic empowerment, so they can live in dignity and they can find, the future for them in education or in work. And economic, it is very essential for them. And it is still missing. Civil society organizations, we are working on these issues. We really feel that empowering women, young women, and the young people from the IDPs is essential for how we say, tackling the consequences of the war and the consequences of terrorism, and trying to put an end for the extremism thinking and the terrorist thinking. This is because still in Iraq there is some still how we say, I can mention the shadow of terrorist thinking, and it needs how to dry this culture. Is not easy, but it needs the help to find, for instance, many of these children, as I mentioned, they don't have birth certificate, or the family, they don't have death certificate for their members. And it is bigger problems for them to settle, and bigger problems to find a way for their, a new life. And it is one of the issues that we are pushing the government to facilitate these challenges for these families. Also, the things that the families of Daesh, I would like here to stress on, the family of Daesh, mostly they are now the women and the children. These women and children, we think that most of them, they are innocent, but they have been, linked to their male members whom they were linked to the Daesh. But what is their future? This is what we need. They have been threatened. They have been, how you say, make harassment, especially women, sexual harassment. They are part of the sexual harassment. Children without how we say it, IDs, without legal papers for them to continue in the school. And now you can feel after 5 years. Now we are in 2022. We are to be an end. So how these people to feel that the rehabilitation program for them is essential. Rehabilitation program on the basis of civil education, on trying to make them away over the extremism ideas or in religions and so on. Of course, also I would like to mention that all these survivors or the IDPs, they are from the minorities in Iraq. Iraq is a lot of minorities of Yazidis, Christian, Kakai, Shabaki, Turkmen, all these small minorities, which really we need to recognize that they are citizens. They are full rights, not only as minority second level of rights. And it is essential to advocate the government for that their participation in the decision making or in the decisions of their fate. It is essential to include these people in the decisions of what is the solutions for their problems. This is, I feel, that we are trying as civil society, not just only giving, humanitarian aids. No, but we need more to let these people involved in the country's future, in the peaceful coexistence, in the diversity as recognized as full citizenship. So this is what we feel always. It is the displacement. IDPs is part of the justice in Iraq, to build justice and to build, or to realize citizenship state. And this is what we are really working on that. But still, for instance, I let you one of the problems that we have, the challenge. That within the Yazidi women all are part of the survivors, and they have got a very international recognitions for their brave and for their breaking down the silence about the crimes of Daesh. But the problem now that these women really, when they come back to their community, their children is not recognized by their community, because they are, we say their fathers, they are non-Yazidis. And it is very hard, very hard. They have to leave their children away and to come back alone. It's a humanitarian suffering. So what we need to make more pressures on the Yazidi, decision makers of the religious thing, that this is not, it is not justice. It's not fair to leave these children away and to let these children in the future to be to form a new terrorist groups because they are being how we say. They have
Marginalized.
been excluded and they have been harassed by their Yazidis. So this is one of the parts that we have to know. And the institutionalize the treatment for all these, survivor is very, very essential. Without, the trauma treatment, without health care, with mental health, with, rehabilitations. Also, one of the problem that we are facing now, that there are foreigners from Daesh, the families of Daesh, the foreigners, women and children. And some of them, still they are in Iraq or in the, in Syria, in the camp of Hol, name it Hol camp. It is our appeal to the international community that all governments, that they have, citizens from these families, they should go back home. This is important. They should go back their homes, and this is which will really, facilitate to make rehabilitation program for the Iraqis, because this also play a very, very, aggressive role in, maintaining the Daesh extremism thoughts and culture. And this is one of the things that even now in Iraq, we are trying to receive families of Daesh to Iraq, from Syria to Iraq to settle, but it needs a lot of work. And this is because of the very sensitive security issues. The government, they are trying to make us away from them. But we feel as civil society, it is very, very important role they can play in the rehabilitation program, especially on culture of human rights, on non-violence culture, and the coexistence and reconciliation, as well as on the, social cohesion. This is important for
Thank
us
you.
if we speak about, settling the issues of the IDPs in Iraq.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Edward. We have 6 minutes left, and I want to offer some time for some reactions. I'm hearing, what I like is that we're hearing, the suffering is a humanitarian issue, but the solutions don't necessarily need to be. And Governor, I want to turn to you just for your reactions specifically on the development side of things and the types of programs that the bank implements to address this, not from a humanitarian perspective, but from a development perspective, and not solely on the refugee community, but a whole of community approach as well.
Well, thank you for your question. If I may, I just want to have a reaction to the points that were issued, and I have 2 points that I want to flag. The first one is that we call displaced people as if it were an homogeneous category. They're not. They're human, and they have different needs, and they need different action, different policies, and for example, the grants that the Council of Europe Development Bank deployed in the Ukraine were specifically targeted to handicap displaced people that have special needs that had to be addressed. The second comment that came through various interventions is the need of collaboration across actors, especially at the level of local and central government. This has proved very challenging. When it takes place, it's very rewarding. And my experience has been the experience of the SEB that in some cases was just a no-go. the situation just was blocked. In other cases, despite the different political color at the central and local level, things were ahead and allowed a very effective situation. 30 seconds for your specific question on the development aspect. Well, this has two dimensions, if you will. The first one is on the root causes, the origins. As the Prime Minister was saying, people move because they cannot make a living where, and they wish to remain and have a job. And so you need foreign resources, foreign investment to get the economy going. The second aspect is that you have people that from displaced become migrants. Well, they are human capital that have to be integrated, and there is an important need of action for people in the receiving countries to understand that.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Governor. And Deputy Prime Minister, just maybe 30 seconds from you. The Governor mentioned cooperation, and sometimes cooperation is difficult, but one of your lessons from your time in national government in Greece is cooperation and sharing of responsibilities. That was your second lesson. Is there enough cooperation happening at an international level in your mind? And if so, if not, why not? Oh no. My question is there enough cooperation happening in your mind at an international level on the issues of displacement?
We must have solidarity. We must have solidarity, as I said before. Otherwise, no one country can give a radical solution to the problem. We must create, procedures to have cooperation and solidarity. At this time, I think with the war in Ukraine, things have moved a lot for the better, because it was rather a problem international, a huge European problem, and Europe had to face this problem all European countries had to face this problem together. So I think with a bad example, as is the war in Ukraine, solidarity between European countries goes better.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. And not just solidarity between countries, but solidarity between different stakeholders. As Hanna was mentioning, in terms of solidarity not only between national governments, solidarity between national governments and their subnational governments, their city governments, solidarity between national governments and their civil society organizations, and solidarity, I have to emphasize, between all these different actors and the communities that we're discussing as well, making sure that they have an equal voice and a say in the solutions that we're discussing, going back to a nothing for us without us mandate. With that, unfortunately, I have to close. There's a lot more to discuss and a lot more solutions out there. And I'd actually like to close with a slight call to action for all the project leaders out there who are working on situations not related to displacement. I think it's quite clear that displacement is often pigeonholed within an emergency mindset, within a humanitarian mindset. But there's more creative solutions that can and should be addressed to this. And so in your projects, as you're going forward, as you're scaling up your projects, as you're asking for funding, as you're delivering solutions, I ask you to think about how migrants, how refugees, how women, how people living with disabilities can actually be included within those services that you're putting forth and bringing about in the world. Because the change that you are seeking, these communities are as deserving of it as anybody else. With that, I'd like to thank my esteemed panelists. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Victor for joining us from Lviv. We hope that you all receive the support that you need. And here's to more innovative solutions and more collaboration on this issue. Thank you very much.